Shoufuku no iho, mambyo no reaku, koyo dake wa ikaru na, shinpai suna, kansha shite, gyo o hagame, hito ni shinsetsu ni. The Guiding Fundamental Precepts of Usui Reiki Ryoho. I want to dedicate this video just to the very first two aspects of that, Shoufuku no iho, mambyo no reaku. And why do I want to talk about that? These two lines for me in the precepts are so incredibly beautiful, and they're so rich with wisdom and guidance and understanding in our practice. And unfortunately, it's most often not recited. It's most often not taught. It's most often left out of the Guiding Precepts of Reiki. Shoufuku no hiho. This translating Shoufuku no hiho is this mystic art that invites in happiness. So this mystic art, and this is the way that I explain it in my classes. Imagine that you are just going about your day, right? Let's say you are a seasoned practitioner or a new student alike, doesn't make any difference. If you're going about your day, then pretty much by definition, you're struggling and you're suffering. You're attached, right? You've got things on your mind, you've got a busy day, maybe you're tired, maybe you're stressed, maybe you exercise too much and your body is fatigued. It doesn't make any difference. We are always in the world of duality and suffering and attachment. So if that's our normal existence, then when we come to our practice of Usui Reiki Ryoho, and when we recite that phrase, Shoufuku no hiho, then it's like I'm going to step away from this chaotic environment of our lives. And I want to be clear, like that's me right now filming this video. I'm not practicing Reiki, right? So I have attachments, I've got beliefs. We always are in this world. But if we recognize that there is this mystic art that invites in happiness, then we start to move away from that world of attachment and we start to settle into the practice. Happiness here is the gradual releasing of attachments. And so as we sit down, we notice that we become lighter, for lack of a better word. We become more still in our mind. Everything that is in that kind of sphere of our normal life, that can take a pause. And as more of that takes a pause, then we're simply left with this state of increasing internal peace. That's this mystic art that invites in happiness. And here's the next bit, which is really beautiful. As we work on recognizing Shoufuku no iho, what's the next line? Mambyo no reaku. Mambyo no reaku is this miraculous medicine that cures all diseases. And so if you look back at my previous video here on the channel, that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying don't rush the practice, because we need the time. We need the dedication to the precepts and to Reiki so that we can recognize Shoufuku no iho, so we can step into this understanding of letting go of all of our attachments. And when we become more still, this miraculous medicine flows through our body, or this miraculous medicine that cures all diseases flows through our body. Now, this is a really big statement, and before people are jumping on for attachments and belief here and claiming that this is how Reiki heals and everything, I think that is if we take a literal interpretation of that, I think that we are being misguided. To me, Mambyo no reaku, this miraculous medicine that cures all diseases, is simply a recognition of the state of being when we are increasingly free of our attachments. Much like when we sleep, we could say that sleep is like Mambyo no reaku. We could say sleep when we are able to very effectively heal our body because all of our attachments, right, are left aside. Bruce and everything that I think about during the day and so on, none of that exists when I'm deeply asleep. And in that state, my natural flow of energy, if you want to talk about it in a metaphysical sense, the flow of chi through the body, the flow of daikomyo, the great energy of the universe, that is just moving through my body and helping me to release attachments and suffering. And in that state, the body heals naturally because it's simply moving and getting rid of waste, if you want to think about it like that. It's healing itself. So if we recognize Sho fuku no iho. That's like, hold on a second, let me just sit down and calm down. Let me sit down and recognize Shin Shin Kaizen Usui Reiki Ryoho, this continual effort that I'm putting in to improving my mind and then my body. See, if my mind is improved first, my body will follow. And I think that's echoed here in the precepts. Sho fuku no iho is like, work on improving the mind, the state of the mind. Are you going to stay attached to all sorts of the spectacle of belief? And we can have so much of that in the Reiki world, so much of these like cord cutting and chakra balancing and energy opening and da-da-da-da. All of that stuff is in the mind of the practitioner. All of that is framed in belief. If you can cultivate a quiet mind, then there's no cords to cut. There's no chakras to balance. There's no entities to release. There's nothing that you need to do if your mind is neutral and quiet and calm. So even if you can't get to that, still make that your trajectory, and you can start to recognize this understanding of Sho fuku no iho, which is kind of like the continual improvement of the mind. And if we do that, then the body will improve itself or will follow, which is Mambyo no Ryaku, this miraculous medicine to cure all diseases. See, once again, like I was saying in the previous video, none of this has anything to do with the external world. It's got nothing to do with healing other people or seeing other people. It's got nothing to do with cutting cords or removing entities or anything like that. It only has to do with you and your state of mind. So if we can constantly improve that state of mind, then we can recognize this medicine that cures all diseases, because there's nothing to cure in the first place if your mind is at peace. So why do we then have the following 5 precepts? Why do we then go koyo dake wa ikaruna shinpai suna kansha shite gyo hageme to nishin setsu ni? I think this is because even though we are trying to recognize this mystic art that invites in happiness, Sho fuku no iho, and from that mystic art we can recognize this miraculous medicine that cures all diseases, Mambyo no Ryaku, we might not be able to be in that state of mind. And most likely we won't be, because that means that we are perfectly still. And that might just be a split second in your practice. The rest of the time, you're most likely going to be somersaulting through all of your attachments. So all of that busyness in the world that you're trying to let go of. And I'm sure if you think about your practice, you'll know what I'm talking about. This will resonate. Imagine a moment when you, or recall back to a moment when you're seated in your practice and you're working on your self-healing. I know this happens for me anyways. I'm certain this happens to all of you listening as well. You get nice and quiet, you get into your practice, and then in your mind, a negative voice comes up, a memory of some attachment comes up. All of these thoughts start to come back up into our life, into our mind, into our headspace. So this is where the precepts come in. We start with this understanding of this mystic art that invites in happiness, and I'm trying to get to Mambyo no Ryaku. I'm trying to move in that direction, and I'm going to do the best of my ability to get to that direction. That's where I want to go. However, I know that on that journey, my thoughts are going to invade, my body's going to be sore, my legs might fall asleep, whatever it might be, it doesn't make any difference. I might start channeling an angel, so I'm just as distracted as anything else. None of that matters, right? This is where the precepts come into play. When those things come up, can you recognize koyo dake wa ikaruna? If you have a bad memory coming up, can you try not to get angry by it? Can you try not to worry about it? If we can let go of anger and worry as all of our attachments are moving through us during our healing session of ourself, we're left with gratitude, honesty, and compassion. We're left with the natural state of being of ourselves. We're left with simply the movement, the fluid movement of all things. You know, everything in the universe, in my opinion, by definition, gravitates to those last 3 precepts. If we get anger and worry out of the way, and all of the toxicity that comes through it, then what are we left with? We have to be left with this state of gratitude, state of honesty, and state of compassion. And that's for all things. That's where we start to then recognize Mambyo no Ryaku, this miraculous medicine that cures all diseases, because we are simply in the state of being of the universe. Anger and worry are what takes us out of that. And by anger and worry, I mean these as umbrella statements, and they are, kind of holding in all of the emotions that are attached to it. And by the way, I think it's very important here to recognize that anger and worry can be about positive things as well. So I'll give a very quick example about that. Because I know this might be a little bit jarring, but if we are remembering a really amazing vacation, for instance, right? Like if you're ready to go on vacation and you're thinking about, wow, the last time we went here was so amazing and I can't wait to go there again. In reality, this is worry. I'm worried that it might not be as good. And then if it's not, you're going to be back into anger because it wasn't good enough, right? It didn't meet your kind of desires, your needs. So we're back in those first two precepts, anger and worry. If we can let go of those, then we just move. We're just present, right? If we can let go of those, then we recognize Shofuku no Iho, Mambyo no Reaku. So to me, these are such important aspects of the precepts. And it's amazing to me that they're hardly ever talked about. Quite often, when I'm looking at courses of my students, when they've taken it from other teachers, or when I'm at a Reiki share, a Reiki circle or whatever, Shofuku no Iho and Mambyo no Reaku are most often not talked about. And I think that's missing the beauty, because it's almost like that's what we're saying as to where we know we want to go. So I'm going to set my sights way out there on a peaceful mind and a quiet body where I can recognize this energy that flows through, which is this miraculous medicine to cure all diseases. And now how do I get there? I get there with the precepts. I get there by recognizing that, yes, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to worry. But when those things come up, I'm going to do my best to let go of them so I can take a next step further, which is to gravitate into the compassion and the honesty and the kindness of the universe, right? And move then back to Shofuku no Iho, Mambyo no Reaku. So it's almost like we set our destination so we can get there and we know where we're going. If we get there or not is not the point. The point is that's the direction we're trying to go. And all of that is happening only in you. That's your journey, not on anybody else, right? Your journey, it's in you. So I hope that helps with the really beautiful understanding of the guiding precepts of Usui Reiki Ryoho. As always, everybody, thank you so much for the support of the channel. I do appreciate it. Be well, everybody, and in Gosho to all.